So, we can use language. I mean, this is the thing. We use language, we use concepts, or consciousness does, or life does, whatever is doing all of this. It is sort of seems to be able at some level to render things conceptually and distinguish them, designate them, distinguish them one from the other, right? So I can think about and talk about thoughts and distinguish those from sounds, right? Or from touch sensations, or from emotional states. So I'm sort of using language, consciousness is using language to try to it's almost like here's one way to understand it, is it's like there's this sea of phenomena, and it appears, the phenomena that we call the world appears patterned, doesn't it? It appears as various patterns, as various structures, as various forms, as various dimensions of experience, which we seem able at one level to designate and describe in the ways that we do: thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, visual images, objects of the world, right? So, and that's all fine. We could say that's the process of sort of seeming pattern recognizability, and then the labeling and describing and designating of the patterns as here's what's happening. And then I describe the pattern, right? That seems to be happening. But what my work is all about is okay, fine, that's the world we basically think is the world. Most humans is the world that we seem able to describe, right? And designate and name. But all these inquiries that I do and write about are designed to highlight this whole other sort of side of the coin of reality, or the coin of experience, which is that despite the seeming power of our concepts to designate and describe and characterize all of this and talk about it with each other, right? As we do, we ultimately can't really pull it off, because it all transcends all of our notions of what it is. And there's different reasons we could say that it transcends, that I'm often highlighting. One is the instability of what's here, that because what appears vanishes as it appears, it can't really be thought about, right? Because the minute you think about what's here and attempt to designate it and describe it, it's gone. So how can you can't actually describe it, owing to its unstable, transient, morphing nature, right? So that's one key reason why it transcends comprehension, or transcends intellect, transcends conceptualizing, because it's too much of a shapeshifter. The other reason I would say it transcends description and definition, even if the descriptions capture maybe something of what seems to be here as a pattern. The pattern, if you think about pattern recognition, you can think about it as like connecting the dots to see what is the shape and the form of the pattern, right? Much as you might connect the dots in a star constellation, and you see then the pattern, right, of the Big Dipper or Orion's belt, or whatever pattern you see. But if you imagine this moment right now, and if you were to try to really describe what's happening right now, you could say, well, I'm having a conversation with John over Zoom, and you've sort of connected a series of dots that describe some kind of pattern of what's being experienced, right? But there's really an infinite number of dots, we could say, in terms of what's actually occurring experientially. It's infinite. And every single dot of experience itself has like an infinite number of dots, like fractally, So there's too much information. It's like, how do you connect an infinite number of dots to tell a story of what is here, right? You don't, because it's infinity. This is another reason why the moment transcends description, is there's just too much here to describe, too much here to map the territory of this. It's just transcendental, right? So what we try to do as humans, understandably, our conceiving minds, we try to figure this out. Even when I speak about this, even when I talk about it in the ways that I do, that there's that can be that part of us still trying to wrap our conceptual minds around it to feel like I can understand what's being, pointed to. But the whole point is to really come to see the way in which your experience can't be conceived. That's the point, to recognize that it's too vast, too slippery, too indeterminate and unresolvable to ever be pinned down, right? How do we pin this down? If we can't pin it down, then there's our proof that this is fundamentally unknowable in the sense of not graspable by concepts, no matter how useful the concepts can be, and they can be. They're part of life, right? And yeah, and even if there's a part of us that is maybe forever attempting to put it into some kind of box, because that's an aspect of the mind that its job, in a sense, is to put things in boxes conceptually. So let's just say that never stopped. That's okay if it never stops. Because meanwhile, the reality that consciousness is attempting to place into some sort of conceptual box, the reality itself just won't have anything of it. It just will not be captured in the boxes. And we can see that. Yep. So we don't have to shut off the conceptualizing faculties. I tried to do that for a long time and wore myself out, quite frankly, trying to stop my mind. So that's sort of, I just gave up on that because I was not very good at it, for one thing. But reality, like right now, the reality that's being experienced is transcending all of our concepts about it, whether there's a lot of concepts there or not. It doesn't matter. You see? Who cares if there's a lot of concepts? The concepts themselves are not concepts. In other words, they're also unresolvable, transcendental to the core. Even thinking is beyond thinking. Therefore, not a problem. But feel that. Feel the answer to this, or if you will, the discovery is simply in feeling the presence of your experience. It's really that simple. Because the feeling itself is transcendental. This is one of the curious paradoxes to me, is that to find the insubstantial, inconceivable, transcendental nature of this, go to what feels most concretely here. Don't go to some abstraction about it or philosophy. Go to what feels like it's concretely, palpably here. And then feel that and notice that even though it's palpably present and concretely here, like this moment is here, right? The sound, that sound is here, isn't it? It's actual. It's here as a experiential phenomena, undeniably here, right? It's not abstract. It's here. Feel that presence of what's here, and you will come to see, you can come to see the way in which you weirdly or paradoxically or whatever can't actually find what it is that is palpably here, even though it's palpably here. You can't pin down what it is. You can't get to the bottom of what it is. And then, oh, eureka, that's what sound is. It's this. I mean, it's strange because sound, for example, is just sound. It's no bit, what are you making a big deal out of? It's just sound, it's sound to sound. But what is sound? What is sound? It's a black hole. The answer to the question is it's a black hole, a wormhole into infinity. And so is everything else, as it turns out, including you. Without the aid of any mind-altering substances. Reality is the mind-altering substance, the mind-transcending substance, truly.